God dag, alle sammen. Good day, everyone. Just making sure everybody has a minute to come in. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We have an action-packed hour ahead of us. So come on in, get comfortable. We will start right at the top of the hour, and we are so excited to have you all here today. All right. It is the top of the hour. God dag, alle sammen. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar. We are excited to have you step into the land of midnight sun with Hurtigruten and Hurtigruten Svalbard. We have an action-packed agenda here today. So get comfortable. I hope you have a cup of tea. We hope to threaten you with a good time over the next hour. Before we begin, however, allow me to start this session off by acknowledging our amazing travel advisors. Many of you might be here today as they might have shared the link with you. Our travel advisors, they eat, sleep, and breathe travel. They spend their own money and time. They invest in us to personally experience our products so that they can come back and give you the best advice on your next Nordic adventure. So always consider booking with a travel advisor. As I mentioned, we will be here throughout likely the full hour, so get comfortable. We're going to cover our brand overview, Hurtigruten and Hurtigruten Svalbard. I will cover Hurtigruten, our amazing guest speaker, who I will introduce. She will cover Hurtigruten Svalbard. You will learn about life in Svalbard today, and together we are going to introduce two new exciting packaged tours, and we'll end the session with some Q&A. We do have our amazing colleague, Kara Gerard, behind the scenes. She is already answering your questions, so fire them off in the Q&A box, and we'll save a few at the end to answer live. Without further ado, my name is Lynn Wilson. My nickname is Lynn the Norwegian. I grew up in Norway. I'm a Love Boat child. My parents worked on cruise ships, and I have a little bit of a funny start to my career with Hurtigruten. Started with Hurtigruten in 2016, and when they asked me why should we hire you, my answer was, well, I could see the ships from my house, and I think I'm probably going to be the only applicant who could pronounce the company name of Hurtigruten. So the rest is history, but it is an absolute honor to have the opportunity to send people back to my home country every day. If you see in the lower left-hand corner, you will notice that I have a YouTube channel. I like to record evergreen educational content and store that on that channel. So this webinar will be hosted there. We are here to cover an amazing tour today that is covered by dual brands. So you may not know, but we have a sister company called Hurtigruten Svalbard. So we have Hurtigruten Svalbard. I will do the introduction of Hurtigruten, and our amazing guest speaker will take things over from there. So let's start with Hurtigruten. What do? We are a cruise line, but it's not just a cruise. This is a journey through over 130 years of history. And to know us, you also have to know a little bit about Norway. So essentially, there's three facts here I would love for you to remember. We have well over 1,000 fjords from over 30 ice ages. It's the largest concentration of fjords in the world. We have 50,000 islands, and 2/3 of the country is mountainous. Put me at a table with a banner stating that Norway has the most stunning coastline in the world, because this is the case. But your second thought should be it's also logistically challenging to navigate. So our history goes all the way back to 1893. Imagine all of these fjords, all of these islands, and just keep in mind there was no connection between the northern region of Norway and the southern region of Norway. Something as simple as mail. Behind us, we have all the mountains. It could take weeks, if not months, to reach the northern regions. So in 1891, the government floated out a contract asking all seafarers, would anyone navigate the coastline carrying mail and cargo, but also navigate at night? Not many lighthouses back then, rather treacherous journey, so no one stepped up to the plate. That is until July 2nd, 1893, our maiden voyage took place from Trondheim to Hammerfest. Yes. Our founder and Captain Rickard Wittig commandeered the DS Vesterålen, and he stepped up to the plate and he forever changed history of the coast of Norway. So this is not just a cruise. This is the biggest example of a lifeline to the Norwegian coast and Norway by Norwegians. So as we go through this webinar, I want you to really hone in on the fact that we have faithfully been connecting the coast since 1893. Export was born on our ships. The prosperity of the country could arguably be tied back to the ships. No longer were Norwegians isolated. They had freedom of movement. And it's been so exciting to just basically see how the company has evolved over the last 132 years. What started as working ships grew to accommodate leisure travelers, and we've since gone on to become arguably the most celebrated cruise line in Norway by Norwegians. That's right, children will escape their teachers chasing the ships because Hurtigruten is coming. We have full small villages that will call our captain Ingar Lorentzen. Captain, we see your ship is close by. We're all hanging out at the pier. Can you please stop by? We have someone who has a surprise for you. And this is just really a journey that is meant to pull at the heartstrings. Everything about Hurtigruten is Norway by Norwegians. So we have grown now to accommodate 9 ships in our fleet. We have the highest number of cruise departures in Norway. We operate 365 days a year. We have the widest variety of itineraries, and just rest assured that if you want to immerse yourself into the local culture of Norway, then Hurtigruten would be a contender. So that's just a quick brand overview of Hurtigruten. And without further ado, allow me to introduce my colleague and amazing friend, Anika Paust. She is, I'm just going to say it, she's the bomb biggity and a bag of chips, kettle cooked. She is going to take you through Hurtigruten Svalbard and life in Svalbard. So allow me to see if I can make you co-host here. Let me see. Did that work? Can you commandeer the screen, I wonder, Anika?
Well, let's have a look. But hi, it's so nice to see so many people came to have a chat with us today. And we're really looking forward to telling you a little bit more about both Norway and Svalbard and the opportunities to visit us. I am the opposite of Lynn. We could say that. I grew up in Australia, but moved to Svalbard, which was basically as far away from home as I could get. And I actually studied aerospace engineering before deciding to settle down in the Arctic and live here. And I've now been here for 17 years, which is longer than I was expecting when I got here. Um, I do also have Instagram there, which is Arctic Aussie, if anyone wants to see what we're up to. And also, yeah, live here in Longyearbyen. So if anyone has any questions about the town or the area at all, please do let me know. And now we will see, Lynn, if I can change the slide. I do not think I can change the slide, so you might have to do it for me.
All right, we're going to pivot and I will be the slide advancer. You just tell me when and we will proceed.
Perfect. So Hurtigruten Svalbard, we are located here in Longyearbyen on Svalbard, where I'm sitting at the moment. I'm just 1,300 kilometers, which I think is about 800 miles. Lynn, you good at that?
Not really, but 800 miles has been my talking point for many years.
Yeah.
So we are going to go with 800 miles.
So we're 800 miles from the North Pole and living in basically the northernmost town in the world with sort of full settlement feeling and all of the services and things you could want. Hurtigruten Svalbard has also been here basically since tourism began in Longyearbyen. So we've been here since the 80s. We were previously trading under the name Spitsbergen Travel, in case anyone out there has heard of that before. But we have actually been owned by Hurtigruten for over 20 years and work really well with our colleagues and friends, of course, at Hurtigruten, like Lynn, to try to put together experiences that are immersive with both Norway and Svalbard. Or perhaps that people that have already been to Norway with Hurtigruten might be interested in coming up and seeing another more northern part of the country can then come with us. You can pop that ahead, thanks, Lynn. Now, Lynn and I have known each other for quite a few years. I think we met at an office event in Seattle, office of Hurtigruten. Is that right, Lynn?
Yes, we did back in
Mm.
2016. It was
As one
uh
of,
it was a friendship at first sight, I have to say.
well, I mean, I've known you longer than your kids, so
That's true. She predates my children, so that is very important.
one of the things Lynn said early on there was like, it's a bit wonky, isn't it? And I'm like, it is. And she's like, no, it's wonderfully wonky. And so we've kept this slide. We had it in a webinar last year as well. But it is. And some of the things that are wonky or a little bit strange, I have sort of gotten so used to that I don't even think about them anymore. But luckily I have Lynn to remind me of the things that aren't normal in the rest of the world. And the fact that things that seem normal here might not be normal other places. So maybe we can go ahead, and I think we've got some examples in here. First of all, this is where we are, just to give you the overview. Lynn's been showing you the Norwegian countryside, and on many maps, Svalbard is sort of stuck with a line much closer to Norway than it actually is. But here you can see the full overview of where we are, sitting up here in 78 degrees north. Most people that come to Svalbard will fly and come either directly from Oslo or from Tromsø. But of course, what we are looking at sharing with you today is the other way of getting to Svalbard, and we will get into that in a little bit. You can go ahead and change the slide there, Lynn. So, life on Svalbard. To be honest, it is really different to, well, of course, living in Australia, but also to living on the Norwegian mainland. There are things here that make sense for us that don't really make sense in the rest of the world. Some of it is positive. I mean, it's tax and duty free here, which is always a nice bonus. But of course, the freight and getting things up here and the general connectivity can be an issue. And actually, talking of connectivity, Lynn, we should mention the fact that Richard With was also one of the first running tourism trips up to Svalbard as well, with the sportsman route, and built the first hotel that was ever built up here on Svalbard. And that
Correct.
actually predates the town of Longyearbyen. So the town of Longyearbyen was built in 1908, and it was actually originally an American town. There's another little back and forwards connection here. But Richard With was actually here about 10 years before and built the first hotel ever built on Svalbard. And it was just around the corner from where Longyearbyen is today. Unfortunately, the building isn't there anymore, but the area is still called Hotellneset, which is basically like the hotel point. And therefore it's sort of remembered in our history up here as well. So let's have a little look through. Oh, here's a couple of fun ones. So on Svalbard, it was actually a company town. So it was a mining town until about 1980. And some of the things that were there have now continued. For example, the fact that we have these alcohol cards. Alcohol here is tax-free. And they did put limitations on it for the miners. Miners have a lot of heavy work and a dangerous job. And so they decided they should prevent them from being able to have free access to alcohol and also prevent them from making their own. But that means that this card still lives on. And basically with this card, you can buy 24 beers, a bottle of fortified wine, and 2 bottles of spirits per month, which is a bit of a weird mix. And the obvious thought is, well, what about wine? The fun part here is that the office workers in the mining company, they drank a lot of wine and they didn't want to have to put limits on themselves. So the limitation was only put on beer and spirits, essentially, which were the miners' drinks of choice. This has continued to today. And while this one is showing my card from 2023, do have one for 2025 as well. And it is one of the fun little points. It's also the way that locals identify themselves as locals. If there's any offers going on, a local price for something, for example, then you're always asked to show your alcohol card. So the focus on alcohol cards up here can surprise people, but it's not necessarily about how much you drink, but just that it's proof that you actually live here. The other card here on the side is the weapon card for my 44 Magnum Smith & Wesson revolver. And guns are pretty normal here. It is due to the fact that we have polar bears living on the island. And anytime you need to leave town, you need to be carrying appropriate weapons. These normally would also include like a flashbang cartridge in your signal gun or like a flare gun, but also covering something like a 44 Magnum or, for example, a 308 or 306 rifle that would actually be able to help you out if you were in the worst possible situation with a polar bear. Luckily, in 17 years, I've never had to raise a gun to a polar bear, however. What else have we got that's a bit weird and wonky here? Oh,
Your
yes.
daily commute. I love it.
So as you can see, you can actually see the whole of Longyearbyen in the background there. And that means it only takes me about 5 minutes to walk to work. But if there's snow, I can make that into a half an hour snowmobile trip in the morning by getting out, getting a bit of fresh air, and heading into the wilderness a little bit. I also have a couple of friends that have a cabin just on the other side of the fjord, and that's a great place to stay in the winter because it is only a 5 minute snowmobile trip into the office, but you really get to feel like you're a little bit out and in the wilderness at the same time.
What about your traffic jams?
Well, traffic jams caused by cars, that's pretty uncommon. But here you can see one of the major traffic jams from this summer. And this is the barnacle geese. Barnacle geese are protected on Svalbard, and they have just been getting into such big numbers now. It's just incredible how many barnacle geese there are. And I actually got stuck for 4 minutes waiting for a crowd of barnacle geese to cross the road so I could get a little bit further into town. There's also a couple of pictures that I have where the barnacle geese have just sat down on the road in front of my car and completely ignored the fact that I was there at all. So they are definitely very comfortable in Longyearbyen.
Oh my goodness. And this traffic jam alone, when we were talking the other day, you're like, it was just annoying me that I had to be 4 minutes late. So anyone tuning in from North America, we should be so lucky to have barnacle geese traffic jams. I mean, hello. All right, let's talk about something else that might be a little wonky with you.
Oh, the shop, that's a classic one. So most of our provisions come by boat, and we normally get a boat every couple of weeks. That does mean that holes in the grocery shelves are quite common. There's actually a case at the moment connecting the fact that one time when the boat came up in March this year, they had such bad weather that basically all the food that they brought with them got destroyed. They had basically uncooked scrambled eggs in one container and combinations of milk and yogurt in another. And that means that we don't go to the shop thinking, I'm going to buy this and this and I'm going to make that. We go to the shop and think, what have they got today? And then work out what you're going to eat based on that.
Except for
Um,
Fridays. You guys are very specific about your what on Fridays.
well, Fridays, it's Norway, it's tacos.
Taco Fredag, Taco Fridays. 800 miles from the North Pole, people. Taco Fridays.
For sure.
Yeah. Shall I move on?
Please do. Oh, the seed vault. This is one of the things that we are so used to. When people mention it still, I'm like, huh? Oh, yeah. So on Svalbard, we have the global seed vault, and this is basically a backup vault for all of the seed vaults in different countries around the world. It was built here because it's meant to be like a really stable place, both geologically and politically. And by building it into the mountain here, it actually goes quite a long way, several hundred meters into the mountainside. We have permafrost in there, and that means that the mountain's already at -6 degrees Celsius, and I can't do that comparison for you, sorry, but something between 0 and 32 Fahrenheit at least. Um, and the seeds are best being kept at around -18, but cooling it down to -18 from -6 uses much less energy, of course, than cooling it down from a temperate climate. And there are seeds in here from all around the world. If you're interested, do look it up and have a look. It's quite amazing where things come from. My dad, who used to work for the Department of Agriculture in Australia, has several photos of himself standing here to show his colleagues. Um, but it is sort of the backup. So recently, they've actually had people taking seeds out of the vault again. And some of this was actually for Syria because their own seed bank in Aleppo had been destroyed during the wars. And that meant they didn't have their own backup copies of their important seeds. So then they were able to take them out again. And the main mission of the Seed Vault is to encourage global diversity in plant life.
And to
It is
manage
also,
expectations, will we gain entry to this seed vault?
unfortunately, not. It is a completely locked, secure facility. They did actually used to have the opportunity to go in occasionally, but the Norwegian fire department decided that no, there's no emergency exit in this building. So, therefore, in case of fire, how would people get out? I could say that the chance of fire in a tunnel in -degrees is quite low, but that's how Norwegian building laws work. There is actually a great fun parody of this if anyone is interested in that kind of thing, which is the Oreo Seed Vault film on YouTube. So if you want to have a little joke and see a bit of Svalbard landscape at the same time, you can definitely look that one up.
Amazing. All right. I want to talk about cats. Tell me about all of your cats in Svalbard.
Officially no cats here, Lynn. They're completely illegal, and that photo there is obviously AI. No, I'm kidding. This cat actually was in Barentsburg, but they officially registered it as a fox. Unfortunately, it did pass away, so we now do not know of any cats that are still on Svalbard. The reason for this is that cats are able to survive outside throughout the year on Svalbard, and we have a lot of really protected wildlife, both birds and sort of baby animals from other local species. And the concern is, of course, that the invasive species could take over and destroy this sort of important, very short, sunny summer period when they're creating their new generations up here. But we do have bunnies.
Hi, Penny.
Hello. So this is Miss Bunny Penny. She is the world's northernmost rabbit. I'm going to let her go now because she's been sitting on my lap this whole time waiting for this slide. But say bye, Penny. Bye.
Bye. Ha det bra. That's hilarious.
But yeah, bunnies are allowed. So it's only cats and like what do we call like weasels? Ilder, Lynn. I think it's weasels. I've never heard of having one as a pet before,
Ferrets?
but ferrets. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, cats and ferrets are not allowed on Svalbard due to the fact they could get outside and wreak some havoc with that local wildlife. They were actually considering similar rules about dogs, but dog sledding is such a traditional way of getting around on Svalbard that they had to allow the working dogs. And then where do you put a line on what dog can be and not be on Svalbard? So therefore, dogs are allowed, but also bunnies, which make for the best house pets.
Yes, I've learned a lot about domesticated bunnies from learning about Penny. And for anyone who's interested, I vote that she gets her own Instagram channel. Just saying. Yeah, I think I will advance then.
Do
365
it.
days a year. Take it away.
Well, you spoke about sailing 365 days a year. So I think it's also important to note that we are also here 365 days a year doing all kinds of different tours and that kind of thing. Of course, sailing up here in the dark season is a bit trickier though. You talk about your experienced Norwegian captains sailing through the night along the coast with limited lighthouses. Here it would be crossing the Barents Sea in the total darkness and then taking people around on a boat trip where you say, well, if you could see, there's a mountain here, and if you could see, there is this. So therefore, there's very little boat traffic here in the winter. But we do have a lot of other things like Northern Lights watching, snowmobile tours, dog sledding, of course. And yeah, basically anything you can think about doing in the Arctic, except for a helicopter trip, is available here. And here you can see the map of most of Svalbard. What's missing on this map, Lynn?
Kvitøya, or maybe Bjørnøya.
Bjørnøya. Kvitøya is the little one
Kvitøya's in
up
there,
on the
upper.
top
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bjørnøya. And the reason we haven't put Bjørnøya here is because then the map would be so zoomed out that you wouldn't be able to see everything else. Bjørnøya, or Bear Island, is located about halfway between Spitsbergen, the biggest island in the Svalbard archipelago, and the mainland. And our team, we're all based here in Longyearbyen, in the center of the island there. And as you can see, we're on a sort of really big fjord. It's called the Isfjord. Let's just say that the Dutch, with Willem Barents, who discovered Svalbard, they were not particularly creative when it came to names. You've got Beren Island, which is Bjørnøya in Norwegian, or Bear Island, because they saw a polar bear. And the fjord outside of Longyearbyen is called Isfjord, the ice fjord. I wonder what they saw in that fjord. And then the whole main island here is called Spitsbergen, which basically is a anglification of the Dutch word meaning pointy mountains, which is what they also saw there. But basically, as you can see, we're quite centrally located in the Svalbard area and on Spitsbergen. And we do have another little settlement up to the north called Ny-Ålesund. We don't really call it one a town because it's a scientific research station, so it's not really a place where you can live normally. as a sort of general citizen. They just there for the people that need to either do their scientific research or support the people doing scientific research. And basically, Svalbard itself is about 1.5 times the size of Denmark. It's about the same size as Ireland in landmass. So it is actually quite a big place, and we're only about 2,400 people living on the whole archipelago, meaning that coming up here, and once you get outside of Longyearbyen, you're basically great chances of being alone in the wilderness and really getting to feel the area, experience this sort of Arctic silence, that kind of thing. So you could go
Yes,
ahead
if
here
you've reached the era of life where it's too darn peoply outside, we know of a place for you. I'm just
while I live
saying.
here. So Hurtigruten and Svalbard, in addition to running tours, we also run 3 accommodation properties on Svalbard. Funken Lodge, that is our lovely boutique hotel. It's located on the hillside, fantastic views, incredible food. I have a little bit of a soft spot for this place because I did have my wedding there just when they were finished with the renovations, and it was amazing. Both the wedding and the hotel. I mean, just to clarify. And it is absolutely fantastic place, great service, excellent people, and really comfortable rooms as well. We then in the middle here have the Radisson Blue Polar Hotel. That is located sort of town centre, very easy to get to everything from there. Good for both sort of individual travellers, but also for families. They have connecting rooms and family rooms there as well. And they have one of the town's most popular pubs with the locals as well, great pizzas, and also the sort of cathedrally like windows you can see here on the front is where their main restaurant is, where both breakfast is served and also open for dinner with a sort of Norwegian and international menu. Finally, we have coal miners' cabins, which is the sort of affordable option up here in Longyearbyen. It is based in the old barracks where the miners used to live up in Nybyen, which literally means the new town. Again, we've continued this tradition of having very simple names around Longyearbyen. But it is a little bit simpler, a little bit more price effective. One thing to note if you are looking to stay here is that most of the rooms do not have their own bathrooms, so it's not hotel standard. But it is sort of at the end of town, right underneath the mountains and glaciers. And if you want to sort of get into that wilderness feeling straight away, that's where you could go.
We actually already have a question here. We usually save these for the end, but I think this one's pertinent. We have a question. Is it safe to walk around? And meaning polar bear safety. So I think that's a good one to take now.
Absolutely. It's safe to walk around in the town centre itself and between, for example, these hotels, which are located in 3 different parts of town. What you shouldn't do is leave the town or head up into the mountains from the town without either having a guide with you that has weapons or with weapons that you know how to use, essentially. So walking around in town is no problem at all.
Thank you.
And speaking of town, let's have a little look at the seasons. This picture is taken just around Christmas in the middle of the day, so at lunchtime. And at this time of year, we have night. I mean, we have complete night from the middle of November to the end of January. And this means that, you know, wandering around at lunchtime, you could get to see the Northern Lights even then. Should we have another look at another season, Lynn?
Yes, we do have another question from Sigrid. This is just lining up perfectly. You have great questions, Sigrid. When does winter start or midnight sol? When does the midnight sun end? So let's do the winter question. So you have the polar night, but what would you consider to be winter essentially?
We normally actually talk about having 2 winters here. So we basically have like the Northern Lights winter, and then we have the sunny winter. Northern Lights winter, most of the time starts in November, once we start to get snow on the ground. And then we go into the sunny winter from once the sun is coming back over the horizon in the middle of February. And this can actually run until about the middle of May. So we normally, this was an easy date for you to remember, Lynn, we normally run winter until the 17th of May, and then we start changing into summer.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, that actually lined up perfectly. Thank you so much, Sigrid. We have a Norwegian tuning in, I believe. What about this one?
Now we're in summer, and this picture is actually taken at midnight. So now we are into the midnight sun. And actually, Lynn, you know, we just had our first sunset of the year, or of the winter, I guess. We did have some in the beginning of the year, but the first sunset since April, just at the beginning of this week on the 25th. So the midnight sun does actually run here for over 4 months, but when you're in the middle of the season, it is just as light as day, the whole sort of all the way around. I was going to say the whole døgn, as we say in Norwegian, Lynn, but
Yeah.
the 24/7 light. And it is quite an amazing thing. When you come to visit, people find it very energizing. When you live here, you do kind of start looking forward to the sun going away after a while.
Yeah, I can imagine it would wreak havoc on your circadian rhythm. Just a fun fact, we were up there last May hosting a trip, and it was the time where we had this crazy geomagnetic activity. The one time only you would see northern lights, crazy northern lights in North Carolina. Where was I? I was up in Longyearbyen with the
Midnight sun
midnight
with
sun. The
zero
sun does not
chance.
set from late April through late August. So if you are tuning in and you are an insomniac, you are in great company. I love this illustration of it all, though.
So this does make it a little bit easier to understand once you understand the map here. So basically, from the top to the bottom, you've got the hours of the day. So from midnight to midday and then to midnight again at the bottom. And then across, we've got the months. So basically what you can see here is this middle section from April to August, where it's midnight sun. The sun never goes down. There's not even a twilight. And then from now, basically, well, from 2 days ago until about the 11th of September, we officially will have a twilight at night. The sun is below the horizon, but it's still quite light. And then from the 11th of September, the sun will finally be at least 6 degrees under the horizon, and we will officially have a night. And as you can see, it does change quite quickly. So the last sunset of the year is around the 25th of October. So it's just in these 2 months that we go from 24 hours of sun to zero sun. And every day gets, on average, shorter by about 15 to 20 minutes. After
And
that, in the begin, oh,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, after that, in the beginning of November, we have this sort of blue light days, starting in the end of October, going into November, where it is still a bit light during the day. It's actually one of my dad's favorite times to come up because we do have the Dark Season Blues Festival in there, and he's a bit of a blues fan. And then from the 14th of November, officially, there is no daylight, no twilight. It is just sun at least 6 degrees under the horizon all the way to the end of January.
And then you
Then
have a return of the sun party, do you not?
Exactly. So there's a couple of dates in there. So the first one is that the sun is over the horizon officially on the 16th of February in general. Can go a little bit up and down depending on the leap years. But that means that then after that, the days are getting longer and longer again by this 15 to 20 minutes per day. And on the 8th of March, another one to remember, Lynn, it's also International Women's Day.
Yeah.
That is officially the sun day in Longyearbyen. And that's due to the fact that Longyearbyen is sitting in a valley with mountains to the east, the west, and the south of us. So it takes us a couple of weeks for the sun to get high enough up to actually shine into the town. And then we have this great little celebration. All the kids from the school come and sing for the sun, but also they generally put on a lot of concerts and other events throughout the whole week.
Yes. Norwegians invented spring fever for anyone listening because we have emerged from these cold, dark winters.
Yes, and here again, you can get a little bit of an idea of the different seasons. In the winter and the Northern Light season, of course, activities are focused on what you can see and do. Northern Lights hunting is, of course, very popular. It is important to note that our Northern Lights season is a little bit shorter than on the mainland, since we have this long sunny period. So normally we would suggest looking for Northern Lights between the middle of February and the middle of March. Sorry, the middle of October and the middle of March up here. After that, you've only got a couple of hours of the day where it's light enough to look for them. So the chance of seeing it is quite low. And then getting into the summer and the 24-hour daylight, of course, we've mentioned that several times, but basically from April to August, it does not get dark at all. And actually seeing the sun over the horizon is from about the 18th of April to the 24th of August.
Amazing.
But I think today we're going to focus a little bit more in on summer, Lynn, because that's when we've got our great combination product coming up here.
Yep.
So In addition to the things that are in the package now, I just want to mention a few other activities that you can do in the summer. We do have these great polar circle boats. They're basically like a rib boat, but instead of having air in the pontoons, they're filled with a special foam, which makes them more versatile. And also, you can actually cut one of them in half, and both halves will float. So they're nice and safe. There's also a photo in here from our wilderness evenings. We do this in a cabin out at Camp Barents, and the cabin used there is actually a replica of the house that Willem Barents and his crew built on Nova Zemlya. They've used the deck of their ship once they got stuck in the ice there in 1596. And they used the deck to build a cabin to survive the winter. But it is today, of course, a lot cozier with both electric and fire heating. And then in the bottom there, you can also see the dog sledding on wheels. And here on Svalbard, it is generally cold enough that we can run dog sledding on wheels throughout the year. And it's really good exercise for dogs, and also a really nice way to see a bit of the landscape without having to do it on your own steam. Here you can see them using some of the small wagons where the guests can actually get to drive themselves. And they do also have trips with larger wagons where the guests are driven around by the guide. And I think most of these tours here, Lynn, are actually on your optional excursions for Svalbard Line.
Correct.
So let's hop ahead and talk a little bit about wildlife. There is surprisingly little wildlife here if we talk about number of species that are here all year round. Basically on land, the only land animals here are foxes and reindeer. The ones that are meant to be here, apart from the bunnies and the dogs that we've taken up with us. But of course, in the water, we have all different types of seals, walrus, and of course, polar bears. And in addition, we have birds, hundreds of different types of birds that come here during the summer, and one, the Svalbard ptarmigan or grouse, that stays here throughout the year. Of course, polar bears are really often on people's I want to see this list when they come to Svalbard, but they are really protected. So we need to sort of be aware that coming to Svalbard with the sole goal of seeing a polar bear is probably not the way you want to do it. You want to come here thinking about the variety of things you want to see and do, just so that your trip doesn't become a disappointment if you don't see them. But let's have a look at some of this wildlife. And if you go ahead. Okay, so the Svalbard reindeer. Some of you might have seen reindeer in Norway or caribou or other similar creatures in other places, but the Svalbard reindeer is a little bit special. They are their own species that have sort of developed to survive on Svalbard. And my dear friends in Finnmark, in the north of Norway, they like to call them Svalbard pigs. Slightly unfair, but it is because of the fact that they've developed much shorter legs and rounder bodies than the mainland reindeer in Norway. But that also means they're able to survive better here on Svalbard, and they are really interesting. They also wander around town all the time because they have, in general, no natural predators apart from us here. The Arctic foxes, these are always a delight. They are very playful, and you often see the cubs around at this time of year as well. They are not uncommon to see in town, but there are several areas close to here and seen often on boat trips where we know that they are denning and you can see them. One thing we have to note in general about wildlife here is that the wildlife is all protected, so you're not allowed to disturb any wildlife. And it's also important to note that there have been outbreaks of rabies, so please do not pat any foxes, as they are the predominant carrier if there is an outbreak. But otherwise, they are just a real treat to sit and watch when they're playing around on the mountainsides or trying to remember where they buried food for themselves is one of their major hobbies. And the walrus. These are my husband's favorite animals, actually. And he is a wildlife photographer. But the walrus seem to have such a personality, and they are amazing when you see them on land, and perhaps even more so when you see them in the water. They seem to be so lumpy and wonky and not able to move around when they're on land. And as soon as you're in the water, you see that's really their element, and they are quite elegant swimmers. They also survive solely on sort of small mollusks and shells and things from the bottom of the ocean, and yet manage to eat so much that they grow to a massive size. Even the polar bears won't normally try to attack a walrus. And puffins. Oh, I always get happy when I see puffins. I don't know about you, Lynn.
Of course.
I think it's the colourful beaks and just the personality they seem to have from the shape of the feathers around their eyes and things. But the puffins here on Svalbard are seen during the summer. They've just mostly left. There's still a few of them floating around in the fjord at the moment, but they do generally tend to leave now in August. But they do nest in some of the bird cliffs and in certain areas very close to Longyearbyen, as we do have tours specific to look for them. But also on any longer trip around Svalbard, you are quite likely to see them in different areas, either in the water or in the cliffs. And yeah, they just always make me happy. Whales, of course. How can we forget about the whales? On Svalbard, when I'd been here for a couple of years, I actually saw my first blue whale. And for me, this was one of the most incredible experiences, just based on the fact that I remember my year one teacher telling me, and I won't tell you what year that was, but telling me a long time ago that you'll probably never see a blue whale because they're nearly extinct. And then to be sitting in a boat here and have a massive blue whale come up next to you must be one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. In addition to those, we do actually also see humpback whales, a lot of beluga whales, like the white whales, minke whales, and in addition, they have been seeing more and more bowhead whales, or the sort of Greenland whale in Norwegian. It's a right whale, and it was the one that was hunted nearly to extinction during the whaling period on Svalbard as well. Oh. Of course, we mentioned the walrus a little bit, but there are also a lot of different seal species here. The ringed seals often are seen on the ice in the winter, and they do actually pup onto the ice. So the little fluffy white ones, they're called kvittunge in Norwegian, or like white youth, I guess, white babies. Are quite a pleasure to see in the winter. We do also have a larger seal called the bearded seal that's often seen around the fjords here, and also harbour seals who turn up in sort of sheltered areas, and they're the ones that like to look like bananas when they're sitting on rocks with their head up and their tails up. Up in the ice, there are a few less normal seals, like ones that cause a little bit more excitement, like hooded seals as well. So definitely a lot of maritime animals to have a look for.
Thank you so much. We had to allot a little bit of extra time for that because Svalbard is so wonderfully wonky. I just cannot get enough. And sorry, I'm stealing half of your talking points today, but this is life in Svalbard. And that brings us to the topic at hand, the Arctic frontier, Oslo, Fjords, and Svalbard, two ways to explore. And this is funny because Anika and I, we were talking about, wait a minute, our trip lines up with this. How can we marry the two? So Hurtigruten, the longest running cruise line in Norway, and 365, Hurtigruten Svalbard, 365 up there. So we finally have a package that marries both products. So we are going to discuss two tours today. We're going to give you a quick day-by-day overview to show you what to expect. So there's a 13-day option where we've built in a 2-day pre-package. We have the signature voyage, the Svalbard Line North. So this has evolved from the original Coastal Express. It is a fully commercial, more traditional cruise-like experience. And my favorite part is the 2-day post extension in Longyearbyen. It's my experience that people don't spend enough time up there. So I hope that the Life in Svalbard block has threatened you with a good time and that you now want to extend there. For the particularly adventurous, we are going to combine the Norway in a nutshell, the pre-package, with the adventure discovery culinary cruise of Svalbard Line. coast extension in Longyearbyen, and we're tacking on a full expedition on the MS Serenissima, which Anika will come back in to discuss later on. If the packages aren't feasible, just rest assured this is part of the signature listed Svalbard line. You can book a standalone voyage as well. You can do 8 days north, you can do 8 days south, or the full 15-day round trip. We're going to have 2 ships operating this itinerary from May through early September, essentially. So just rest assured we have many different ways to explore. So without further ado, let's dive into the package because this is a really exciting combination that really delivers the best of land and sea. So I'm going to cover days 1 through 11, and then I'm going to pass it back over to Anika. So you get to arrive in Oslo. This is a compact city, rich culture, cuisine, history. You have the Vigeland Sculpture Park. You have Holmenkollen. You're going to make your own way to the hotel. So you'll notice that culturally Norway's different. You're going to land in Oslo, and then you are going to presumably take the train into Oslo, into the city center, because public transportation is key over there. It is very simple. You go out of the airport. To the right, you have baggage claim. To the left, you have the train station. Quickly just grab the ticket into city center. Once you're in city center, you leave the train station. You're right there pretty much in the mix of things with you'll even see the opera here nearby. So you're going to
And I
have
just
the
want to add
go
that
ahead.
that train takes 22 minutes, whereas it can easily take an hour by bus or car or taxi. So the
Correct.
airport train is amazing. And literally the main station for it is right behind the Opera House there.
Exactly. And I was very nervous. I'm always a nervous Nelly traveler, so I documented the whole thing. So I also have a video that documents the whole process. So it's impossible. I have no sense of direction. So I have everything all stored away and via, I guess it's on Instagram or what have you. So we can share that link. But you'll have the evening at a centrally located hotel, and just rest assured that your breakfast will be included. The next step of the journey is Norway in a nutshell. And if you haven't heard about this, this is arguably the most popular independent tour that links trains, buses, ferries through fjords, mountains, and valleys. It is arguably the most scenic way to find your way from the nation's capital of Oslo to Bergen. So you're going to have your overnight in Oslo, and then you're going to start a 2-day Norway in a nutshell. So after breakfast on day 2, you're going to make your way to the train station, again, centrally located. So just to manage expectations, there could be 200 yards of walking, a block of walking. It's just the Norwegian way of life. But you're going to have your day 1 of the 2-day package. You're going to make your way to Flums. You're going to catch the train to Myrdal. You'll change the trains, and you're going to take the famous Flum Railway. So this is going to give you fjord views all the way up to the tiny village of Flum. So it's about a 20-kilometer long stretch. And you're going to have an overnight in Flum. And then day 2 marks the next step of the Norway in a nutshell. You're going to go by boat, by bus, and by train. So after breakfast, guess what you're doing? You are going on a 2-hour boat cruise. Why do you come to Norway? Fjords, mountains, tick, tick. We're going to go through the Aurlandsfjord and a UNESCO listed Nærøyfjord. So this will be about 2 hours. Will take you to Gudvangen. You will transfer to a bus, and then you're going to take a 1-hour journey, scenic journey from Gudvangen to Voss. And then you're going to again transfer back to a train and make your way to Bergen. I love this Norway in a nutshell. I really think it's a great way to just leisurely just get into the Norwegian way of life and already start ticking off bucket list experiences. So you'll arrive in Bergen, Norway's second largest city, in the afternoon at leisure. What you see here in the bottom image, that is Bryggen. That's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You could visit the fish market, or you might want to take the funicular up to Mount Fløyen. You could take the Fløibanen, and you'll have the evening at your leisure. The next morning, your transfer will be included from the hotel to the pier. So that was the land portion. Let's sprinkle in the Hurtigruten Svalbard line north. But I do want to talk about your accommodations before we do the day by day. With Hurtigruten, it's very important for us to show you Norway like a Norwegian. We have a saying, it's called null stress, so zero stress. We want this to be your relaxing haven at sea, your home away from home. Now, we don't have casinos, we don't have late night entertainment. Norway is the destination, Norway is the star of the show, and we will give you this example of a slow travel experience, a relaxed, cozy travel experience, and this is your home. So your stateroom on board, guess what that is? That's your bedroom, nothing more. The restaurants are your kitchens. There's no dress code on the ship. You dress comfortably. The two-story panorama lounges, that is your living room. There's lots of outdoor deck space. So you're going to be basking in the midnight sun or maybe taking in the last or the first sunset of the season. So just keep in mind, this is a very relaxing journey. It is incredibly laid back, and that models the way of life of Norway. So again, just to reiterate, you're going to have the two-story panorama lounge. You'll have the lecture halls, you'll have saunas, fitness centers, gift shops, libraries. I've also left in a picture of Northern Lights because it is late August and we've already started to see Northern Lights on mainland Norway. So there is a chance later in the season that you might be able to see some Northern Lights. The ships will be refurbished. The Trollfjord was refurbished. The Midnattssol, the other ship, will be refurbished early 2026. They both have suites with private balconies or floor-to-ceiling bay windows, and a wide variety of non-suite stateroom options. Also, it's small ship cruising at its finest. So all of our ships in our fleet will max out around 500 guests. That allows us to thread that Norwegian coast like a needle. So there's many different ways to experience the coast of Norway, but why wouldn't you want to hug the coast and really get that front row seat? If you're tuning in and you've cruised rivers before, have you maybe considered a fjord? So it's a very beautiful, slow, cozy way to take in the coast. And we will entertain you, but it's going to be through lectures. It's going to be through adventure talks. This is an adventure discovery cruise. We want to immerse you into the destination of Norway. Fun facts about Norway, points of interest out on deck if we pass areas with historical or cultural significance. So that will be your main source of edutainment. We don't have a dress code on board, but please leave all tight clothing at home. This is a culinary cruise in spades. Hyper locally sourced gastronomy, 80% of our food sourced locally. So you should expect traditional Norwegian cuisine. There will be culinary storytelling in various formats in all three restaurants. All guests will have access to two of the three restaurants on board. Flora is the main dining, so generally speaking, buffet breakfast, buffet lunch, seated dinner. You'll have the Sami-inspired Brasserie Arran, generally open around noon until 9, and that's more of an open seating concept. And if you book a suite, you will have the a la carte fine dining Rust. And just so everybody knows, communicate any dietary preferences. We always have the meat-based, the seafood-based, and the vegan-based option, as well as gluten-free. So always be sure to communicate any dietary preferences. The journey continues into the beverages, however. We also source 60% of our beverages locally, and we have really fun collaborations. Arguably the most fun is Havets Bobbred, or Bubbles of the Sea. This is where we age our sparkling wine underwater in undisclosed fjords for 10 months on end. Undisclosed because I don't know if you'd want Norwegians knowing where all these crates are. We can be a little rambunctious on weekends ourselves, but this has proven to be a really good maturation process. So we have Havets Bobbred. We have the breweries that make organic IPAs only for Hurtigruten, distilleries that make Arctic gin and akvavit only for Hurtigruten. So just you're home away from home for these next 8 days. The point is that you're going to see Norway in a way that no one else can show you. You're going to learn about Norway, and we want you to taste the coast of Norway and really live the authentic Norwegian way of life. So as I mentioned, your journey on the MS Midnattssol or MS Trollfjord will start in Bergen, Norway's second largest city. You will depart at 2:30 p.m. So your hotel will likely have the storage room, drop off your luggage, go peruse the city in the morning, and then take your transfer to the pier. You just settle in, participate in the lectures. There's likely to be a welcome reception, some points of interest out on deck. So this is where you just kind of leisurely meld into the life on board. Åndalsnes is the mountaineering capital of Norway. And again, we're taking off fjords. And fun fact, Anika, there's another Isfjord. So there's an Isfjord on your way into Åndalsnes. So you'll have two fjords named Isfjord. You're also going to have the Romsdalsfjord. And you have a weird tagline. It's called Friluftsliv. And what does that mean? That means outdoor living. This is Norway by Norwegians. We want you to embrace the Norwegian love of outdoor living in harmony with nature without destroying or disturbing it. If you're following along with the map, you'll see the port map as well as the planned times in port and optional excursions. We're going to call upon small villages, and Svalbard is not the only wonderfully wonky archipelago. Tirana is another wonderfully wonky archipelago. It's about 500 islands on the Helgeland coast. 4 of these are inhabited year-round. The village actually opens exclusively for Hurtigruten, so that means the church, the Petter Dass Chapel, and local museum. One of the smallest municipalities in all of Norway, fewer than 500 people. This archipelago sits 33 nautical miles offshore, and it sits right on the Arctic Circle. So you're going to cross the Arctic Circle. You will have a traditional ceremony here. And I do see an Arctic sauna and cold plunge opportunity here. If I were taking this voyage, I would be doing the polar plunge. You're going to get to the tip of Lofoten archipelago, and these mountains that you see are part of Lofotveggen, or the Lofoten Wall. So Lofoten is arguably one of the most scenic areas of all of Norway. If you've thought about Norway, you have seen these images. Reine is arguably one of the most photographed places. Old fishing village dates back all the way to 1743. And maybe you'll participate in an optional excursion here to take you to a village called Å, a traditional fishing village, or maybe opt to do kayaking. We will have about 7 hours in port here, so independent exploration is also welcomed. Then we go to Tromsø, which is northern Norway's vibrant Arctic hub, striking architecture, lots of dining opportunities. We will dock right in city center, so you are close. You're right in the mix of everything. You can visit the Arctic Cathedral, learn about the polar history at the Polar History Museum, take the Fjellheisen cable car up to Storsteinen. So there's a variety of optional excursions to choose from here, or you can once again explore independently. So these voyages have longer time in port, so that really opens the door to do as much or as little as you like. What we deem to be the northernmost point anyways would be Honningsvåg. That is a fishing village that is a jump off point for the North Cape, which is what you see here. Honningsvåg is just a bustling fishing port, but it's most known for this globe monument. So North Cape sits about 307 meters above sea level. It was once a landmark for early explorers and sailors navigating the Barents Sea. It'll give you these spectacular views. And if you think back to my intro picture in front of a globe, of course, you have to take that obligatory photo of the North Cape Monument. There's also a lot of bird life here, so the puffins are back in play here. Also, home to the midnight sun in the process. So you'll learn also about Sami culture in this region. So we're now making our way across the Barents Sea, and we are going to threaten you with a good time up towards the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard. So we're just going to have a nice, relaxing day. We will pass Bear Island from a distance, so the southernmost island of the Svalbard archipelago. You'll have more lectures. We're going to really start learning about Svalbard in this moment. And then day 11, guess where you come? You get to come to this wonderfully wonky place of Longyearbyen, to Anika's hometown, but we're going to do some scenic sailing in the morning before you will debark the ship. And before I hand things back to Anika to take things home with the land portion here, just wanted to stress that it is a generously inclusive voyage, but the excursions off ship will carry an optional charge. And these are ranked level 1 through level 4 in terms of mobility requirements. So just a friendly reminder as you're picking out excursions, make sure that you're also adhering to the level of mobility. So level 1, maybe that's a guided tour, you're getting on and off a bus. And then level 4, maybe that's kayaking that requires a little bit more of a physical ability. So quick overview of the Svalbard line north, but the true adventure starts in Longyearbyen again.
Wow, Lynn, I actually really want to take this whole trip now. Can we do this next year? Can we take like the whole combined trip?
We are working on it.
Let's do it. So, as you can see, this is actually a picture from one of our ships. So, this is the kind of sights you might see in that morning coastal sailing before coming into Longyearbyen as well. They do normally try to take the Trollfjord or Midnattssol in towards one of the glacier areas, so you get a look at one of these as well. But let's hop in. I know I spoke way too long before. Um, we are running these packages where you have additional nights in Longyearbyen together with Hurtigruten. And in these packages, we include 2 nights in our boutique hotel, Funken Lodge. And Lynn, you can just hop through here. Funken Lodge, as I mentioned to you before, is this lovely hotel on the top of the hill there. Fantastic food and also fantastic views from the hotel itself. A little walk through here, you can see the reception area. We then continue around to the library and the lounge area at the hotel, and a view of one of the junior suites there at the hotel as well. Additionally, in the package, we have included 2 fantastic dinners. And if you go one slide ahead, Lynn, we'll have a look at Funksjonærmessen restaurant. And this is the restaurant at Funken Lodge. This is my favorite restaurant. I was just there on Monday eating some king crab. It was delicious. But it's also the fact that they have such great views and variety of excellent food. They use premium products. They have these views. They have a great team, excellent sommeliers. They also have a full champagne cellar in this building, just as a heads up in case you're celebrating something in the north. And they also make their own chocolates that you always get at the end of a meal. Following on from that, with the other dinner will be at Huset, and this we're super excited to be able to include. Huset is a really unique dining experience. They only take a maximum of 36 people per night, preferably in little tables, so that you can really get into the experience with the chefs, the sommeliers, and the team there. And in these packages, we are including their 14-course tasting menu. This is all focus on local produce. It's amazing, actually. I think also about 80% of their produce is coming from Svalbard and northern Norway. And they are working with local hunters, with local fishers, and getting things delivered in there and making amazing dishes out of this food. One thing to mention is that both of these dinners are a little bit different to on the vessel itself with Len there, is that the drinks are not included, but they do have a great variety of both alcoholic and non-alcoholic drink packages you can add on if you like. And then on day 2 in Longyearbyen, we will be taking you out on the hybrid electric catamaran MS Bard, and we will have a 6.5-hour tour in the ice fjord. This is called the Wildlife and Glacier Safari. So of course, we are definitely heading up towards glacial areas, as well as being able to cruise silently in areas of wildlife and try to point out any exciting things we see. This is where you're going to be looking for your puffins, your whales, reindeer on the beach, walrus on the beach, and this kind of thing. And this tour does include your lunch. And then, if you decide to take on the 17-day trip here, the other things we've looked at now, they are included in that 13-day package, but you can continue on and explore even more of Svalbard. And this takes you from Longyearbyen up to 80 degrees north and back again over the course of 4 nights on board. It is visiting areas like Ny-Ålesund, the scientific research station we spoke about before. You will cross 80 degrees north, hopefully near Moffen, and get to look at the walrus colony there, as well as enjoying hiking and small group landings around the group of islands there. It is a really amazing trip. I just did this at the start of the month, and I am pumped about it. One of the things I'm pumped about is the vessel. Until last year, we did use the Nordstjernen, which is, of course, another historical Hurtigruten vessel. Unfortunately, due to the polar code, Nordstjernen was not allowed to visit anymore, and that's partially because she's partially protected. The lifeboats on board are not okay to travel to the Arctic with anymore, but they're also protected, so we couldn't swip them out. But we're super happy to find another old Hurtigruten boat, the Harald Jarl, which has been renamed the Serenissima, built in 1960 in Norway. It's a few meters longer than the Nordstjernen, giving us a little bit more space, but still keeping us at around the 100 people mark, and it was renovated in 2019, so a lot more comfort here. And if anyone was on the Nordstjernen, we no longer have bunk beds or shared toilets. Let's have a look into this again, Lynn. If you go to the next slide, here you can see some little snaps from parts of the trip. When we do landings here, we are doing small group landings. Each guide can only take up to 20 guests with them at a time. And because the ship's only got 100 packs, we're able to go into land with the whole group. So all the guests on board at one time. So there's no waiting around for the next landing time slot for yourselves. You will be with the same guide all the time. We don't do lectures on board and then let you wander around by yourself. We're actually doing an immersive guiding experience on land. You can see them coming in there with the zodiacs. You can see people enjoying the panoramic deck on the bow. You can see our guides toasting with orange juice when we get to 80 degrees north. And also a couple of pictures here from the restaurant, the outdoor seating deck, and the bar area. Can then have a quick look at cabins. So the packages that we're selling at the moment, they are based with the standard cabins, but we do also have some rates loaded for superior cabins, and there are obviously options to look at even more spacious cabins on board as well. But as you can see here, we are on a historical vessel. So the cabins are not as modern as on the Trollfjord and Midnattssol, but it's really bringing us back to classic Hurtigruten with the fact that we are a little bit more compact. And again, just like Lynn said, with the larger ships there, we aren't spending all our time in our cabins. We're going to be on deck. We're going to be in the panorama lounge. We're going to be out the front. I mean, it's the experience is not sitting in your cabin. And
Absolutely. And oh, I'm
you
sorry.
want to pick this one up? No, I was just going to say we should tell everyone give everyone an overview, and here you are.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the fact that this was a ship that operated the original Coastal Express. So it really feels like we've come full circle, and it's a very intentional package with us.
And
So,
that picture actually of the ship, Lynn, I forgot to mention it, but that's actually taken from the Svalbard Museum archives, the
oh,
original black and white one, and that's with the Harald Jarl
yeah.
visiting New Orleans as part of the sportsman route from Norway to Longyearbyen and New Orleans.
Oh my goodness. I love it. It's just so intentional. But of course, you guys all want to know what is included. So I'll cover the pre-cruise and Svalbard line cruise. So I think we've kind of been planting seeds throughout. So you will start with the overnight with breakfast in Oslo, the 2-day Norway in a nutshell. You'll have the breakfast included. Overnight in Bidigan. So you're primarily going to have the breakfast included with your hotels, and you'll get the transfer from the hotel to ship. So basically, once you're at the hotel in Oslo, the tour commences. The Svalbard line cruise portion is generously inclusive. You're going to have Wi-Fi throughout the voyage. We cross the Barents Sea. It may not be as strong of a signal then. You'll have 2 restaurants included for all guests, all 3 restaurants for suite guests. You'll have unlimited select drinks, so sodas, most if not all beers, a lot of healthy wine selection, select cocktails, select spirits, coffee and tea throughout the day. Afternoon snack in the Panorama Lounge. You'll have a pianist playing music in the evenings. You'll have a 6-person expedition team on board. And then if you book a suite, you'll also have a clothing package included, unlimited mini bar. You'll have full access to Rust as well. So there's some bells and whistles additionally included with the suite packages with us. And then Anika will talk about the Longyearbyen and the post package here.
Absolutely. And I've gotten so used to Norway, Lynn, that I didn't even think to put in including breakfast on the hotels here, because that is a standard generally here. So here you're getting your transfer from the ship to the hotel, private transfer there, 2 nights at Funken Lodge with breakfast included, the wildlife and glacier cruise that we looked at before, and those 2 fantastic dinners, one at Huset and one at Funksjonærmessen, and followed up by the transfer from the hotel to airport, again a private transfer there.
So all the essentials here, and then again, same inclusion. So the additional here would be the mini cruise. If you could just speak to that quickly, we'll go to Q&A.
Absolutely. So here, basically, you start with the same package and then you go into the mini cruise option. And this is full board on board the ship for the 4 nights there. But with breakfast, lunch, dinner, coffee, tea, and water. Unfortunately, we are not including the full bar options that they do have on the Svalbard line, but always breakfast included there. And also on board, you will be having a jacket and muck boots loaned to you for the duration, so you don't need to pack these with you. And as we mentioned before, the guided landings with the expedition team, which is 7 people on Serenissima, just since you said 6 on on your vessel, then I have to point that one out.
Fine, just one up me. It's okay. Can you
Literally
speak
one-upping you from 6 to 7.
just one up me? Can you speak to Wi-Fi on your portion? I think
Absolutely. I
that's
actually
important.
did write it down here when you said Wi-Fi before, and then I forgot about it. So basically, on the Serenissima, there is no Wi-Fi. There is emergency network there, and on the first day, you will have still 4G or 5G in the East Fjord, and you will again have 5G around New Ålesund. But we like to think of the fact that this is a short trip. You're doing 2 activities a day, and it's a really great to have just a couple of days of digital detox, get to know the other people on board, and really enjoy the scenery and people's faces rather than the fronts of their phones. But basically, yes, we do have contact with the ship, but there is no Wi-Fi available for guests there.
Perfect. And then all of your landings will be by means of Zodiac. With I believe New Ålesund, are we docked or are we Zodiacing? I think we dock.
Generally docked at New
Yeah.
Ålesund.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think a digital detox, I'm stealing that. That makes all the sense in the world. Apologies, we went over, but listen, good stories take time. So we really appreciate you guys hanging in there. We had some really good questions. Kara Gerard has diligently been behind the scene answering these questions. And where do you fly to from Svalbard? Oh, after the voyage from Svalbard, great question. You would fly out of Longyearbyen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anika, we are looking, generally speaking, a flight down to Oslo, potential overnight in Oslo before returning to North America, if that's where people are coming from. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I've just gotten SAS's updated flight plans for next summer. And it does look like they will have a relatively early flight on Monday. So you might be able to get some international connections out after being here. But in general, you might want to have a nice night at one of the airport hotels or even back into Oslo to re-see something there on your way down to make your travel a little bit more relaxed.
We
And
like
most of the
relaxed.
flights from Svalbard now go directly to Oslo,
Mhm.
with only a couple per week that are going through Tromsø. So for our international travelers, it is a big bonus that you don't have to do this 2-stop flight.
Of course. And then, Catherine, you have a great question here. Is the luggage transfer porter service from Oslo to Bergen on the Norway in a nutshell included? So this one is not, but in our follow-up email, there is a third party we can route you to that does operate that service. So it is possible. It's just not accommodated through us. Oh, Alexander, great question. What type of shoes do you recommend? Comfortable. We like good hiking shoes for the expedition portion of the 17-day tour. You will be using the muck boots, but generally speaking, just sturdy walking shoes, hiking shoes. We like to walk a lot in Norway, so just go with comfort. Water resistant, never a bad idea. And on the topic of just clothing in general, there is self-service laundry on the ship. So if anybody wants to be team carry-on, I did 28 days on my YouTube channel. There is a packing video how you too can become team carry-on and essentially just do laundry on board. I really need to stress the no dress code on board. We are so relaxed. So pretend as if you're home and what you're comfortable in. We don't care what you wear. We want you to be comfortable. You have to dress for the elements. So when you get to the high Arctic, Anika Paust will be there with the jacket. And I think many of you tuning in, you might be ambassadors. So those are indeed the old HX jackets as well. So yeah,
Use recycle, no waste. We have a
exactly.
big issue with waste on Svalbard in terms of the fact that everything has to get sent down to the mainland. So by being able to adopt the HX jackets, we are reducing the footprint on those as well.
Wonderful. Sally has a question. When do the coastal tours? I'm assuming the excursions you mean. Excursions are actually already bookable for this season for the Svalbard line portion. For the Serenissima, Mother Nature is going to control that game, and those are the landings. So we'll have excursions on the Adventure Discovery Svalbard line North Cruise, and then we are going to go play in the polar playground, as Anika puts it, and you will have all the unique landing sites. I'm sure no two expeditions are the same. That's the beauty of it. And it's just a beautiful sample of each. Karen, remind us of your YouTube channel. She's trying to make me an influencer. It is at Adventure Travel. and you'll see me with my 2-inch vertical jumping in front of the North Cape globe. But we'll make sure we put that in the post email with the recording as well. Ursula, you need to stop threatening us with compliments. We can't possibly accept this compliment of an outstanding presentation. Thank you so much. We really, Anika and I really are passionate about what we do. So we love to tell the Hurtigruten and the Hurtigruten Svalbard story. Clifford has a question about the excursion price. So we're going to refer you to the website for that. Of course, again, we do need to give a shout out to our amazing travel advisors. So always consider booking with a travel advisor, but we have also linked our website as well as our email here as well. So we did go a little bit over, but as I mentioned, good stories take time. And this is kind of a little bit of a brainchild. Anika and I, we were really talking about this last year, and we're like, wouldn't it be great?
I
Fast
think we even
forward 1 year.
suggested it in our webinar last year when we were talking about the products,
I
that
mean,
we
yeah.
suggested the possibility in that one. And now we've actually managed to get it out globally. So it's amazing to have this available to book in one place, nice and easy, and getting the highlights of Norway and Svalbard in one package.
Didn't you have a pretty hefty hand in getting this one across the finish line, though? If I might have just had an idea, but I'm pretty sure you and other awesome colleagues got this one through. So we're extremely excited. It's full of it's bucket list after bucket list after bucket list. There's not one bad segment of these tours. They're fully packaged. You don't even have to think about it. Just show up and get ready to immerse yourself into the high Arctic Nordic way of life.
Absolutely.
All
So we're
right.
looking forward to seeing you all up here.
Yes. Maybe you'll see Anika. She'll be out there. Her bunny, you won't see the bunny, but you might see her. You might see some Svalbard reindeer or the Svalbard traffic jams or what have you. So yeah, well, I think with that, let's go ahead and stop the recording. And if there are no further questions, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it.